We've talked about competition, we've talked about fear, we've talked about how busy the entrepreneurs are. But what do you think are the biggest obstacles that are preventing Canadian businesses from entering international trade?
I think it's a lot of times it's a labyrinth. There's so many trade regulations that continue to change. There isn't always transparency. There's currency fluctuations, some of the things that we talked about before. There's distances. So I think, I would tell you that fear of the unknown and changing trade regulations are probably big hampering items that allow people to just, again, do a little bit of belly button staring and focus on what they have rather than looking to new markets. So other than not knowing how to do it, they haven't taken the step to work with somebody that could help them enter those new markets.
What sort of people are you thinking about in terms of people who can help them deal with new market entry?
UPS certainly has invested heavily in a global footprint. And what it really allows Canadian customers to do are create a bigger company than they may be, create a global footprint than as they stand here in Canada, work with a company like UPS that has these supply chain solutions in many countries that are emerging and have grown in the world. So it allows a small, medium-sized enterprise in Canada be big, not just look big, because we have the relationships, we have the pipelines, and we have the infrastructure to allow them to do what they do. China, Europe is a day or two away from a Canadian customer now. The world has changed. The world has shifted to commerce that's east-west, not just commerce that's north-south. And if they want to play in that, huge market, they got to work with somebody that's going to make it easy. That's going to make it scalable. And as a company, we've invested over the last 100 years quite a bit of time and resources in these markets as we've grown and learned lessons there to really help Canadian small and medium-sized enterprises grow to those markets.
Can you tell us about any specific products or services that UPS offers its small business customers in Canada in order to help them overcome some of these barriers?
There's products by the name brand, Trade Direct Ocean, Trade Direct Air, Trade Direct Ground. These are products that have been developed to allow customers to consolidate and to deploy to other markets in new supply chain ways that didn't exist a number of years ago. And it allows them to enter multiple markets more efficiently, more cost-effectively. So that's an area that's really evolved, and they need to lift the hood under UPS and see what those new products are. Secondly, from an IT standpoint, as I said, the world's gotten smaller, and transparency of information is important. UPS, we've invested over $1 billion a year now for over a decade in creating an IT platform that allows both the shipper and the consignee to really be communicating. It's not just transparency of tracking, but to communicate proactively about inbound shipments, outbound shipments, release of shipments. It really allows suppliers and shippers to figure out when to start the production lines, when to order new products, when to use the information to be more smart about their business. So as you can see, the rudimentary ship and receive has evolved to more of an intelligent way to manage your business.
It sounds like there's a lot of value add out there that says that, hey, even if you as an entrepreneur haven't penetrated these markets before, if you're not sure about all these logistics, there's some sort of a product or service that can help you.
That's right, and it's customizable really depending on the size that you are and the need that you have. And I think that's probably what's important for Canadian customers is, again, use something that's scalable, and as you grow, you can grow your solutions.
I liked your phrase about lifting the hood on UPS. So how would someone do that? Should they be calling a rep, or is there enough information on the website that they could go look at that and get pointed towards what they need?
As I said before, so many people are working in their business rather than on their business. If you take a little bit of time and figure out where you want to go in the next 2-3 years, then bring somebody in that knows what they're talking about. See if they can help you get there.
Okay, great. Final question, Amgad. Do you have any tips or advice for small and medium-sized businesses for surviving the U.S. slowdown? Because when it comes right down to it, that's where most of our exports are going now. So how do these smaller businesses survive the slowdown that we're starting to see?
Companies that have brick and mortar in the United States are really reassessing the way that they've done business in the U.S. So as the economy slows down or the economy flattens out in any way in the U.S., you really need to look at the overhead that you have there. That's number one. And number two, if you don't have a presence, that doesn't mean this is a bad time. Means that you need to compete. And for you to compete, you certainly got to keep your costs in line and enter markets more smartly than people that exist in that market. A product that I talked about before, Trade Direct Cross Border, is a UPS product that allows Canadian customers to actually have a U.S. presence, a U.S. footprint, a U.S. return address, all without having brick and mortar in the United States, all without having necessarily duplicate inventories in the U.S. and Canada. Again, it's an intelligent way to be in a market that is experiencing a different economic outlook than the market you're in. So really look at what you're doing right now in the U.S. if you're doing something, and reassess how to do it better. If you're not doing something in the U.S. as a Canadian SME, maybe it's time for you to compete smarter than those that are actually, flat-footed and have a big overhead there, and it allows you to compete more cleverly.
Okay, Amgad, it sounds like we better let our listeners get back to work. Thanks very much for talking to us.
Okay, take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Logistically Speaking podcast. It's been a pleasure having you with us. I hope you've had the chance today to learn a few best practices to help make your business more successful. We'd love to hear your feedback, so please send your comments to podcast@ups.com. You can also email me personally at rick@rickspence.ca. Until next time, I'm your host, Rick Spence.